Good afternoon, smoke machine people. I have 4 necks here. I'm putting binding on the necks. I thought I'd show you how I do that. I've already put the shape, and I've put the binding channel. I've cut that in with the router on the necks, as you can see there. It's on the headstock. I'm going to be doing the fretboard and the neck in separate operations. So we're going to do the neck first. All right. This is my neck jig right here. This is for like everything from binding to shaping the neck. It's been a really handy piece of wood, and it's just an old piece of oak from a pallet. I just had to cut that notch in it because I usually use I've been doing the flat headstocks like like fender style, but I'm going with 10 degree angle on these with a scarf joint. So I had to put that little notch in there so this would fit in there. I'll show you how I put it in the jig. Gotta leave enough space for my wedges down here. Little word about these. These are 11 SPs. These clamps. These are vice grip 11 SPs, and I've used a lot of different wood clamps. I got a bunch all over the place, but the ones that I reach for more than anything are these 11 SPs. I just find they're really easy to set, easy to grab, and nice to work with. So there you go. And those are the Irwin, the original vice grip brand. 11 SP swivel pad. Okay, so check it out. To get ready, I got a syringe here, and we're gonna get really high, and then no, just kidding. This is filled with acetone, and it's got a blunt tip. So we're going to use acetone to apply the binding. And this is just 1/4 inch by 060 binding. And if you don't know if acetone will melt your binding, do a little sample. And that's what I did with this stuff, because I got some stuff hanging around that acetone doesn't melt. In which case, I use Duco cement. Looks like this. But we won't be using this today, because the binding I have is able to be held in place with the acetone. The acetone actually melts it. So we're going to grab a chunk of the binding. Let me bring you up close here. This is sort of the most critical part of the entire job, is getting it around these ends, because there's a couple of tight radiuses at the end, or radii, whatever you like for you grammar folks. All right, so we're going to get it about the length. What I do is I'll take the wedges that I need, and I'll set them right on top of the neck, and I'll grab the syringe and I'll do the same thing. So everything is right in reach. And I'll make sure I got enough hanging over. What I do is take this, I got a little bit of wax paper on it. This is a mahogany wedge, and I'll stick it right in there. And I'll pivot it so that my gap is right over here. So I'm holding the binding in, and I got a little pressure going this way on this wedge. Then I take my other wedge and I just drive it in there until everything's nice and snug. Okay, now it's all hanging in there. It's pushing up hard against the neck this way. And I'm going to check for gaps. Everything looks good. Okay, now I'm going to flood the area with the acetone. When I say flood, I don't mean go nuts with it. I just mean put enough on there so that you see it on top of the binding and on top of the neck, so that you know capillary action is going to take that stuff down in there. Now, what's happening is that acetone is actually melting and softening the binding. So while it's sort of soft, you're able to make that radius. And I'm going to take a pair of 11 SPs and get these ready to go. Or any clamp, whatever clamp you got if you don't got the 11 SPs. Work that through here. Now, what you want to do is pull this around nice and easy, because it will part. It'll snap on you. Just put your finger on there and give it some time to work around that bend. We're not using any heat. Just pull it nice and easy around. All right. That one's pulled nicely around. Now let's do this side. Nice and easy. Let that work a little. Now, the temperature right now is about, I don't know, between 72 and 75 degrees. So you probably don't want to do this if it's 50 degrees in your shop. I think you'd snap the binding. You got to have a little bit of heat in the air. And again, the acetone that's on here helps to soften the binding a little bit. All right, it's pulled around. Hopefully you can see that. It's pulled around nicely. But these two areas are going to want to bulge no matter what. Even if you put tape on it, it's going to want to pull out of the tape. So this is really the only area you have to clamp. You're going to wedge the back, and then you're going to clamp here. And you can put most of the clamping force on the sides of the neck. You don't got to go crazy on it. A little bit there. All right, that's the trickiest part of this whole job, is getting that wrapped around. Hopefully you can see that. Give you a little close-up. See how everything is nice and tight. And that's a requirement for using this acetone style method. You can't have any gaps in there. Like if you were using glue, you could probably get away with a little bit. But just the nature of binding, it's got to be, the cut has to be perfect. And it's got to lay in there perfectly. If you have any sort of gap, it just looks like a hack job. Okay, we're going to have a little coffee break. Coffee talk. got these two in there. So for lunch, I just had some boneless chicken thighs. We had them for dinner last night, and they were delicious. Jane put some panko breadcrumbs on it, I think some mayonnaise and some sort of vinaigrette with basil, and they were just delicious. These chicken thighs. We had that. We had a little bit of coleslaw and a little bit of potato salad, and that was it. That was lunch. So now I got a double cup of coffee here. This is the double stuff. It's the Starbucks extra caffeine. It's got 2x caffeine. So after a couple sips of this, you won't be able to shut me up. Okay, back to the binding. Okay, so right where I put that vice grip, I'm going to flood that area. Then you just work yourself all the way down the neck with, I use the Stumac binding tape. You could use whatever you like. I like this stuff. Works great. And what I do is I get it tacked down real nice to the top, push your binding up, and then pull the tape down hard to the side. And that way you're pushing the binding down and into the neck. I go every few inches. And it depends on what you need. If you see it pulling away for you, you know, if you're getting little bubbles here and there, then you're gonna have to adjust. All right, just one side. Trying to keep my big face out of the picture. That don't make for a good movie. All right, so it's Memorial Day weekend. I don't know what day it is when you're watching this, but for us, it's Memorial Day weekend. And I got these, I got some of these Slovenian sausages that I get from a place called Perla's down the road. It's in Parma, Ohio, just in case. In case you're ever by, it's a place called Perla's, right on State Road in Parma, Ohio. And they make these, or they sell, I don't know if they make them there, but they sell the Slovenian sausages. And it's like kielbasi, only it's a little more spicy. So it's like a spicy kielbasa. It's more peppery, and it's got a little more bite to it. More peppery and more garlicky, I'd say, than a standard kielbasa. And it's just delicious. So what I do is I cut them in half and I cook them open face on the grill. That burns off some of the extra fat that's inside there. Not that it's a low-fat meal by any stretch, but that's what it does. And it's delicious. All right, so the binding's all on there. It's all tight up against the neck. So now I take the syringe, and we're gonna run it down here. Nice and easy. Whoops. Try not to get too crazy. If you put too much on, you'll lift up your tape. But if you put just enough on, it'll wick down and melt the binding right into the wood. This is the first time I've used these particular syringes, and I'm not sure. Need another piece of tape there. I'm not sure how the plastic parts inside react to the acetone. So far, it looks like they're holding up okay, but there's the chance that they just might start disintegrating from the acetone. Let's hope not. Okay, I'm gonna hit it with a couple of extra pieces of tape, and that'll be that. Where's my tape? Put my, oh, there it is. Take your time with it. The few extra minutes you spend are going to spend the lifetime on this guitar. So all these extra minutes are not going to waste, but hopefully they're going to inspire someone when they walk by this instrument. They're going to look at it and say, I want to pick that up and pick something. And I'll tell you what, music makes the world a better place. And a guitar is a wonderful thing to make music on. So, those few extra minutes mean that you're making the world a better place. Okay, then we take out our wedges and we just double check that the binding doesn't pull away. Just take them out gently. Okay, that's all staying put. Move our clamp. And then we set this thing aside. All right, there you have it. So that's 2 down for today. I'm going to work on numbers 3 and 4 over here. See, 2 down. There's 3 and 4. And eventually, maybe I'll make a video on binding the headstock. All right, folks. This is John from Thomas Muse Guitars. It's not Thomas from Thomas Muse Guitars. It's a long story. I'm not going to get into that now. This is John from Thomas Muse Guitars, reminding you that every machine is a smoke machine when it's used improperly.